best I can in that most
So, greetings everyone. We're going to get started, and I have asked Cal, who is part of the board of this organization, to just give us a little introduction, and then we'll move on into the program.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming to Swell for this awesome event. I'm one of the co-owners here. We're a cafe / bookstore / performance space / bar that really is all about gathering people in real life to tackle big issues and try to build communities. So that's us in summation. Please come by more often and have lunch or drinks or hang out. And we do have the On Tyranny book copies for sale on the table there. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm Sue Ellen. I'm going to make some introductions before we start, and start with that, Ed, or shall we wind up with it?
It's up to you, starting with
I think we'll wind up.
Okay.
Ed has a rousing resistance song for us, so we'll do that at the end.
Read it twice?
Yeah. Bold New Democracy doesn't need too much introduction. Most of the folks in here are aware, but I will just tell you, it's a passionate, progressive, powered by people since 2019, building our bold new democracy since 2019 here in Cincinnati. Our primary role in that work is through making information available and doing getting educational materials out. But more recently, we have been trying to pull people together so that they're aware of each other and what each other is doing, and can start working together as well. Clearly, we need some good actions to be taking place. You would access Bold New Democracy primarily by our website and our Facebook, as well as we have a newsletter that goes out twice a month. You need to sign up for that, and essentially you're a member if you sign up for that. It's easy and inexpensive to sign up. We do ask occasionally for donations, and we do have some expenses, so keep that in mind. If you signed up on the sign-up sheet when you came in, that doesn't mean you'll automatically be on our site. But if you go on the site and ask to be a member and receive anything, then Dan has a cross-reference to know that that we've met you and we're aware of you. Dan and Matt operate the website and the Facebook page with fewer trolls than any other that exists, because they're very careful. So I'll just tell you about the rest of the leadership team. Todd is over here chewing, and so I won't ask him to speak. But he is active in several specific political areas in this city, and he brings us information about that. He's also very strong at the canvassing, and we can ask him questions about the canvassing project that's going on now. Later, I thought Greg was. Greg's not coming? All right, well, there's 2 or 3 others who have roles, but I won't go into those. My role is head mother, and so gang mother, is that what you said? Den mother, okay. So, because I don't have nearly as strong a background in progressive political work that these 2 guys do. They tell me they've been progressive activists since childhood, and I sort of believe them.
My mother thought so.
So I do want to know, to get to know you all just a little bit, and maybe we could do that by asking what things you've taken part in recently. Has anybody, put your hands up pretty good and leave them for a minute, attended any rallies lately? What about registered any voters? What about campaigned for anyone? Any political candidates? Okay. Campaign, yeah. Been part of campaigns. Or done any canvassing? Great.
We do the postcard writing thing.
Oh,
Yeah, we do a lot
anybody
of
done
that.
postcard writing?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing.
All right. All right. I forgot about that.
Where's that happening?
Can you say where one is happening now?
Well, we went to the High Grain Brewery on Galvin Road, and they had a speakers. They had speakers, and they had postcards to write. And at
Okay.
that time it was too late, so we took them home and pulled them out, and somebody's gonna come pick them up.
All right.
And we went to another one that was, where was that place the day it was so cold?
So generally, those activities are listed on our newsletters. The newsletter is pretty complete, and it will give you actions, current actions to take, national, state, and local. And then you can go delve further in and see quite a variety of things. So you can get a hold of where to go and what you can do. So does anybody follow Timothy Snyder?
Well, I read the book.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Or follow him on, he's got a lot of stuff on social media and everything.
Oh, okay.
He's on a lot of social media. So, maybe I won't do that. But, this crowd is really small and a lot of you know each other. So, does everybody have the list in their hand, or do you need it to be handed out? Oh, okay. Do you need one?
Sure.
Can John or Matt, somebody pass those to the people that don't have one in their hand? The list.
Yeah, how many?
Whoever doesn't have one, just whoever needs one, because we're going to talk about this. But what I want you to do is glance down through. If you've read the book, you're a little familiar. But glance down through and pick out your top 2 that you're interested in thinking about, talking about, saying anything, asking questions about tonight, because they're going to use this material. So glance down quickly through and pick one out. And I was going to have people stand up and go share that with somebody they don't know, but maybe we'll just share it with somebody nearby, which one would be your top pick. Just be thinking about it. Somebody in the back's going to have to get up to share.
Are you asking?
No, I'm not asking you to tell me, I'm asking you to tell another person that you're sitting there. Because what we're doing is we're practicing my one that I picked out, which is number 12. Make eye contact and small talk. Okay? And if they don't talk about that one, I'll talk about it at the end. Okay?
Well, I like them.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them a little more thoroughly. Although I gave you the short course. Dan's going to go first. He is prepared to discuss the first 3 in some depth. And, well, I told you enough about what he does for Bowling Democracy, which is keep the operation rolling. and Matt also administers the Facebook page. So it is well done. You can share on the page. Everybody can share what they want to post, as long as the administrator approves it. That's to keep the trolls out, too. So, Dan, do you want to go ahead and
All right.
I'll put the timer on.
She's given me 7 minutes.
I told him to practice and I didn't.
I didn't practice. Sorry. We called tonight's meeting Bold Talk 6, and we had a number of Bold Talks in this series prior to this. Thank you for coming tonight. Furthermore, we defined it as framing resistance. And I just wanted to speak a little bit about what framing is. I'm familiar with a group called the Frameworks Institute. Frameworks Institute, all one word string.org is their website. It's a very interesting website. What they do is, in a number of issues, which government and democracy is one of the issues that they cover, they actually frame conversations, is what they intend to do, frame the language around that. For example, if you're talking to somebody about democracy, how should you approach that? What are some different ways to approach that? That's the type of thing that they'll cover with the Frameworks Institute. Very interesting. People can join. They have monthly conversations. You can contribute to the conversation if you like, Zoom conversations as such. And I've been familiar with them for about 4 years and have studied some of their methods of how they frame conversations. Very good. They define a frame as a guide, and they also say that basically all conversations are guides if you go deep enough into the understanding of what they're saying. So this book is really a guide to where are we at on a scale between democracy and tyranny. That's how I look at it. I think of it as almost, if I extend that, you could think of it as a barometer. However, a barometer measures stuff over time, basically. That's the important thing. Where are we now compared to yesterday or last week? That type of thing. I have not studied the different presidents over time. And what I have done, though, is I focused on the current one and looking at the first 3 issues. One of our handouts is Obeying in Advance. You might see at the top of it. And I did do some research in terms of, okay, what are some examples of obeying in advance? And listed about 6 of them here on this sheet. I'm not going to read them to you right now, but one of the things that Snyder brings up in his book is the Stanley Milgram experiment. Are people familiar with that? Electric shock experiment. It was done back in 1961. Stanley Milgram actually, I believe it was Germany, he wanted to go to right after the war, or soon after the war, and do an experiment there with the people in terms of basically how much have they obeyed in advance during World War II. He was turned down. They wouldn't let him do it. So he put together this electric shock experiment at Yale, I believe. And what they did was they set students in a room and had a professor telling them that there were people on the other side of this screen, and what they would do, what the students were to do, was to press a button which would give those people an electric shock. And the professors did this, or they told them to press once, maybe, press twice, and each time they would hear screams from the people on the other side. And it got to the point they kept doing that just to see how long this would go on. And unbelievably, there were only a few people that left the room at some point. The others kept on shocking people they couldn't see on the other side, and all they would hear was this, people screaming. And they surely must have thought they were doing a lot of damage to these people. So that was the point he was making, was if they look at the person saying this as an authority, humans will obey in advance, basically, and often do. And unfortunately, that's been carried out, and the information that I put on this handout talks about some of the groups that have been doing that. I'll let you read that later. Also on there, the second lesson is what are institutions? What are our institutions doing in terms of basically, are they supporting what's going on Are they being protected? Are we protecting institutions? And what's we can see has already happened is there have been institutions that have been attacked. So as we advance toward tyranny, institutions are being attacked, whether it be news institutions, institutions like aid and things like that. USAID is another example, a lot of things like this. And there's more in there. And then the third one was, in his book, is one-party control. I have a map on this last page of my handout here. All of the blue and red on there show you the states that have one-party control. What that means is both houses of the Congress belong to that one party, and the governor is in the same party. 39 states right now have one-party control. 16 of them are Democrat, and the other 23 are Republican. That's not good. That's a sign, just that alone is a sign that we're moving towards some type of tyranny. It's been the highest, I believe the highest that number has ever been was actually during Trump's first election. So it's slightly lower right now, but not very much. We need to have more discussions among people. And some of the other points he makes in his book point that out. So it's a guide. It's a guide toward, are we advancing toward tyranny, or are we advancing toward democracy, basically? What's happening with us? Personally, I think if you measure that against other administrations, I'd say this is the closest. Personally, I think this is the closest we've ever been to advancing toward tyranny. And we can get into some more discussion about that. But I think I've taken 7 minutes. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Matt.
Very good. Almost That's not going to take you up.
So this might be a little bit longer than 7 minutes, so everybody knows.
We did that. You have all the rest of them.
So I'm going to look at the book as not a barometer, but as a guide to actions and a guide to thought. And so I'm going to come at this a little bit differently from how Jan does. His and my approaches probably work best if you combine them together. But just so I'm a little bit more of sort of partisan Democrat in your face guy than he is, and you know that is what it is. But so I'm looking at at Snyder's work as more of a call to action and a callback to some of the great writers of the 20th century, like George Orwell. And so I'm going to use a couple of the same points that Dan used. In the first one, again, I'm going to use do not obey in advance, because I think that's both the key to the whole book and the most important action any one of us can take to try to get through what our nation is going through right now. And the most important part of this for me is not just the you know, just the reflexive saying of no, which, you know, I'm very much, anytime I hear something coming from the administration, that's my first and most obvious and most honest response. But I think what we really need to look at when we're looking at do not obey in advance is from a little bit of an Orwellian standpoint, where we need to think about how we think about things like tyranny and democracy and how we talk about them and what words we use. Because the words we use when both in our speech to others and in our thoughts to ourselves are what actually cause our ideas to form. I mean, we all know the 1984 story of Newspeak and how the language becomes degraded. And Snyder talks about this in one of his points on tyranny too. But I think when we look at this first point, when we do not recognize our own agency and we simply reflect on things that the government, the regime is doing as if we, the American people, are doing them, then we start to obey in advance a little bit. So I think the first and most important thing that we need to do as an action is, you know, for example, what's going on right now with the war in Iran. We, the American people, did not start this war. We, the American people, are not fighting this war. The regime is fighting this war. And I think we need to separate those two things in order to avoid taking that first step into obeying in advance. I think it's okay and necessary to separate ourselves from the regime. And that, you know, and use language when you're talking to people that reflects that stance in your mind. Do not say, we, America did this. Say, Trump and the GOP did this. Because we didn't. And that's, we need to recognize that. Do not let their words push you down the first step towards obeying. So coming at part 2, and Dan mentioned this also, the second point that he makes is defend our institutions. So I'm going to come at this from a very practical standpoint for us in this room. What is the most basic American institution?
Voting.
You're right, Nancy, it's our democracy, it's our voting. And everything about our own self-image as a country, our, you know, the things we aspire to be grow out of that. You know, so when we look at defend our institutions, there is no United States without our democracy. There's a land, maybe a country, but it's not the United States. And so when we look at what can we do to defend our most basic institution, I mean, I think, you know, we have so many opportunities now to express ourselves and to be loud on social media and go to No Kings, and all of that is awesome. But I think when we are not taking part in the democratic electoral process, we have a right that we are neglecting. And when you neglect a right, it stops being a right. And so I think one of the most important institutions that we can defend is our democracy. The most important way we can defend that is through our voting, through our activism, our canvassing, our campaigning, all this stuff Sue Ellen was talking about at the beginning of the talk. Because if we do not do that, if we let that right, our most sacred and basic institution in our country, atrophy, then they win. And you know, that you can't get any more simple than that. So, and then the final point I'm going to use is actually going to be a combination of 3 points. And that is stand out, be a patriot, and be as courageous as you can be. And what this really speaks to me, and I look at this as another call to action that ties with the other stuff. This is modeling the America that we want. And the way that we are going to be able to get enough people to, get off their iPads and their phones, to be able to look at their neighbor and say, let's go down to the park and let's make some signs. And it's Tuesday in August, but hey, it could be no kings, right? And so the way you do that, the way you get people involved, the way you get people to go from being voters to being citizens is to model that behavior. And so I look at this group of people here, and I've seen a lot of you at all of these various meetings. I've seen people at No Kings. I've seen, some of Dan and Sue Ellen and Chot. I've been working for years now on this stuff, and I know we all know this. What is going to give us a chance to have, the America and the Ohio that we want to have is by getting more and more people to step outside of their comfort zone and start becoming active, which means more than just, showing up every 4 years and voting for president. And the best way that I think all of us in this room as activists can do that is to model that behavior and be as courageous as we can and be as patriotic as we can, and just do stuff even if it's a little scary. And I know all you guys all do that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Sue Ellen will probably take questions.
I will take questions. So perhaps you have a question or want your top choice spoken about, or perhaps you would like to share something that you read in there that speaks to you, or heard that speaks to you. Can anybody?
I'll throw one out.
Sure.
I can't remember what Tim Snyder said, but there is a concern about, and I'd like to know how people are handling purity tests, because that is what often stops, divides, subtracts from, harms movements. And I've forgotten what he said about it.
What Snyder said about
Yeah.
it.
It's a very serious concern.
Yes. Yes. Do people know what he means by purity tests? When you're working with someone else, and how do you choose? Tell me if I'm saying
No,
this
you're
right. When you meet someone else or working with someone else, you may have something in your head that if they take off talking about something that you don't believe in, you're done with them. Is that an action that would be in response to you don't think it's a purity test, but you think you're drawing a line around what your interests are. So does anybody have anything to say about that?
Example, I read something recently about these purity tests and that the Democrats have kind of gone, in the opinion of this writer, overboard. So you might be a candidate who checks every box, but you oppose abortion, then forget it. And so this particular person was saying, yeah, that's a purity test with this person that would be a hell of a lot better in every other way than this Republican candidate. And so, and I think that is a question for us individually, you know, what's included in your individual purity test. But
how you choose who to vote for, perhaps.
right, exactly. Or that you say, I hate this Republican candidate, for instance, but this Democratic candidate is not pro-choice, so forget it, I'm just not voting.
Yeah. Yeah, it does lead to just not voting, doesn't it? When it's in response to candidates. But I'm also thinking about my favorite little one there, number 12, about looking at people and making small talk so that you discover something in what they're saying that allows you to broaden your view of them enough that, hey, we're working together. I had one this morning in that I was working in the community garden with a woman who I had not, well, I had only met her in passing, but we were near each other, for quite a while, so we were conversing. And she is from a much more evangelical Christian approach than I have ever been. And I may have some little things in the back of my head about what those people do, or what their attitudes are, or what, so forth. But we probably spoke for 30 or 40 minutes, and we found many things that we could agree with and work together on. And I think she was a little, she did ask some questions about my participation in the Buddhist Zen Center. So, saying both ways,
But she could ask a question of you.
Yes.
That's the significant part. If you can have that conversation, and whatever her line is, she could ask, but she felt comfortable enough to ask the question of you.
So,
I just had a really interesting experience. I'm on the Price Hill Safety Cab, which meets monthly at the police station, and you can kind of think what kind of people meet there. And we have a very heavy neighbor who lives on Terry Street. It's a ramp in front of his house, so some of you will know who he is, or know at the house. He faithfully took care of his wife, who died a very slow and miserable death. And he had a Trump sign in front of his house at some point. So I was, he always comes to the safety cab meeting. I was sure I had him pegged. So yesterday he said, how many people do you think were at No Kings? And well, obviously he was sure I had been there, so. I said, I don't know, a couple of thousand. He said, well, when I got down to this point, I saw the whole block was full and they were blinking. I'm like, so.
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you,
One behind you.
and you don't, okay, great.
So just another point about purity tests, I think if you want to scale this from the interpersonal to the community or to the political level, I think you need to look at harm reduction. I think that would be a point that Snyder would probably agree with too. And so I think in that situation, you need to be thinking about, you know, who do I agree with the most? And, you know, if we're in a binary system, and right now we have fascists and we have non-fascists, and as much as we all would hate that is the case, it is the case. And so I think, you know, if we have...
That means voting for Lansman, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and for Landsman and for, because, you know, the reality is an action in favor of the fascist is an act, you know, an action against the not fascist is an action in favor of the fascist. And I think we're at that point. We want to be at a place in our democratic journey where, you know, we can be a little bit less, more discerning, but that's not where we're at right now.
I mean, that is a really hard one.
So does anybody have a,
I want to say something about the purity test real quick. I think that's also why we have this. We have these trifectas out there. It's because parties have a purity test, and they found a way in their state to gerrymander, for example, and draw lines that favor their party, what have you, once they get some control. And we end up with stuff like this. And it's a purity test in that state. If you're a Republican in Ohio, you're among the largest black voters, you're going to stay with that because you think that's the way to go. LaRose tells us to do this, DeWine tells us to do that. They're the authority figures. They're the professor in Stanley Milgram's experiment. This is how we do it. And that's what happens in Ohio. And this is what happens in these other states as well. It's going to be complex to get out of that. Matt always reminds me, well, he would hate to see the gerrymandering go away in Ohio if it didn't go away elsewhere at the same time.
I mean, but the flip side is Maryland is gerrymandered in favor of Democrats.
Right.
Yep, because it's either fascist or not fascist. Those are your choices.
so does anybody else have a different point?
Kind of playing off of that idea of like our two options, I'm curious when better options will come to the table, because you could make the argument that we got fascists and collaborationists. So when will candidates be fielded that are concerned about human rights?
So Landsman is a collaborationist.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to name it.
Yeah, so just when will, like, the idea of having to hold your nose to vote, I think just keeps, it maintains the status quo. I don't see how we can have a gradual, a slow tide. I think there is, well, I'll stop there.
You don't think we can have a slow, everybody got that? Gradual turnover?
A gradual turnover, or it makes me, I come here debating the utility.
You came here what?
Debating the utility. Like, I haven't been excited about electoral politics for a long time. And so when you invited me to all, and I was like, I'm curious, I'm gonna go listen, and I'm curious what's stirring. Because I've heard bits and pieces of little projects happening, like a precinct project that the Working Families Party is taking on, other things that are potentially brewing, and I'm just curious, like, what's bold that's happening?
I mean, there are some movements, I don't know if you follow Fortified Democracy. It's a fairly new nonprofit that's really pushing for acceptance voting, right? And they actually say ranked choice isn't the best. But so I feel like some of those things may come to fruition, but it's going to take a while. And in the meantime, we have to push off the most draconian, evil, fascist state that we could delve into so that we still have the right to vote for some of these new things in the future.
And I mean, I still vote, I'm just not excited about canvassing or doing any of that.
I will say, have any of you connected with a group within the Stand Up Cincy Coalition? The coalition is, it's made up only of leaders of different groups, but open to a broad range, although I have to say there are no Republicans organizations in the committee or in the coalition, but there are two different socialist organizations. Who else would you mention, Eileen?
That's what I'm thinking of.
And then the Truth, Working Families.
DSA, SA,
Yes.
DSA, SA, D,
Democratic
Democratic.
Socialists, yeah.
You
Acronyms.
said that was Stand Up, or?
Stand Up Cincy Coalition. But here's the thing, you need to join a group that has their leadership in that, and then get access to the material that the different groups put out. How much of that is in our newsletters and in any of our materials?
There's a fair amount in there, yeah. I don't know the exact.
Well, I mean, for example,
Well, whenever they post information about what they're putting on, and they often do it at Stand Up Cincy, we'll look, Lucy and I, Lucy Crane is a member of our leadership team, and the two of us put together the newsletter, and so we'll take events from there, and from their newsletters as well, the different groups that are in it, we get some of their newsletters, and we'll put it in there, and they've been told to send their information to us as well. So whenever we get it, we put it in our newsletter.
it also comes, Stand Up Cincy also publishes various groups.
They do. The more the merrier.
5051 has one of the more comprehensive ones that I'm aware of. If you go to their website, 5051, they include a huge amount of what's happening, and they usually have the update. Coffee, Compassion, and Action does a lot of their own, but that's also pretty comprehensive of activities in the city. Activities, that's what's interesting to me, because I think in Coffee, Compassion, and Action, you're not seeing the city of Cincinnati, you're seeing Lebanon, you're seeing Westchester, you're seeing Middletown, Hamilton, you're into northern Kentucky. You're at this next round, and they are having events, and they are, to me, that's some of the shift. That's some of the shift that
So like the every week the bridge.
yeah, they have the Brigadiers, but they meet in Bethel. They meet all over the place. They come and they make posters together. They come and they make whistle kits together. They're all kinds of things, and part of it is connecting with others, and that's it. Being in the community. I think it's very effective.
So one way that you can get a hold of some of the material from these other groups is through the newsletter and our webpage. But there's a lot of activity. I mean, you know, Nancy's working. You want to say anything about the immigrant work? You know, she's working nonstop with protecting the immigrants, and there are a number of groups that have sprung up in that field where people are getting out on the street. So,
I think another one is
protect the vote.
that's a big, and that's actually statewide, but there's some very local, excellent activity. League of Women Voters, obviously, but there's a lot, like precinct people. Come on, get your training for precinct.
It's a big
Poll watching, you know, volunteer for this, volunteer for that, and we train you. You know, and there's a lot of training
And
going on.
Northern Kentucky, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth is doing a huge amount.
Yeah, it's great to see what's happening across the state because many of those organizations are operating together. They're informing each other. How do we do this? It goes from Akron down to Cincinnati. That's encouraging to me.
So did anybody have another one of the points that they wanted to throw out? I better be watching the time.
One that really, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it
I
has to
think we
do
have
with
this thing at 8 o'clock.
I think that for me personally, in both what I personally post and what I post on the Transformations Facebook page, I'm really torn between this question of security and not wanting to raise my head above the parapet because we know that Meta is being checked regularly, and making sure that people are following, you know, I follow more things in a particular lane than a lot of people. So I'm able to put stuff out. And I think that that is for me, that is a challenge, which sort of, am I going to be really careful, or am I going to, you know, do I have a VPN, whatever, but, and I had some trolls jump on me for something I reprinted from the Columbus paper, for God's sake. And so I took Transformations private, but that's a challenge.
So it's almost 8 o'clock.
What? Establish private life is what, you know, Snyder.
Can we, in response to what we're told is going to happen at 8 o'clock, could we go ahead and sing our resistance song that Ed wrote? Will you open your mouth?
Is that when we're bombing Iran?
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
Be calm. Number 18, be calm when the unthinkable arrives.
Yeah, exactly.
You got it, Ed? Okay. So this is call and response. It has a number of lines. Ed will do the call, and I will lead the response. And everybody be brave. There's enough of us in here to go ahead and do this. And have whatever you need to in your heart.
Yeah, this is also an opportunity. I've been inspired about resistance music for much of my life. And one of the things that's really been wonderful to hear that's happened, started in Minneapolis, is the Sing Resistance movement. If you haven't heard about it, it's just a wonderful movement that's going around the country. And there's numerous small versions of it around Cincinnati, where people are getting together and they're finding occasions to sing these resistance songs. It was a wonderful choir down at Kingston last week. There's a lot of song leaders. Yeah, they're all over the place, and I hope to connect
And not only
more
that,
closely.
but they suddenly, this afternoon, Paulette said, I am moved to go down and do some songs and stand in front of Moreno's office.
Oh, wow, wow.
And they did. I mean, I think there were only 5 of them, but they got it out there, and they did it, and then they posted his phone number so you could call him.
Let me mention something real quick. Taco has done it again, so there'll be no bombing tonight.
Why didn't you tell us that after we?
I just found out.
That's good.
It was supposed to be because of our song.
If you knew it was
Yeah, we were
coming.
calm, so we stopped.
Right, you stayed calm.
Good. So let me sing through this, and then we'll do the call music. I just sent you a text, so you can do the words. So listen up to this. This woke me up one morning, and then I proceeded to flesh it out and more. It sounds like this. We can stand on our own 2 feet. We can link up with one another's arms. We can sing in solidarity in one united voice. We can tell the world that freedom is our choice. We can walk every extra mile. We can work to, we can give when we notice someone's need. We can work to create safety and protect the rights of all. Blow the whistle on injustice and on greed. Blow the whistle on injustice and on greed. So I'll do a line, we'll do a line, we'll do a line together. Here we go. We can stand on our own 2 feet. We can stand on our own 2 feet. We can link up with one another's arms. We can link up with one another's arms. We can sing in solidarity in one united voice. We can sing in solidarity in one united voice. We can tell the world that freedom is our choice. We can tell the world that freedom is our choice. We can walk every extra mile. We can walk every extra mile. We can give when we notice someone's need. We can give when we notice someone's need. We can work to create safety and protect the rights of all. We can work to create safety and protect the rights of all. Blow the whistle on injustice and on greed. 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 Get warmed up. We can stand on our own 2 feet. We can stand on our own 2 feet. We can link up with one another's arms. We can link up with one another's arms. We can sing in solidarity in one united voice. We can sing in solidarity in one united voice. We can tell the world that freedom is our choice. We can tell the world that freedom is our choice. We can walk every extra mile. We can walk every extra mile. We can give when we notice someone's need. We can give when we notice someone's need. We can work to create safety and protect the rights of all. We can work to create safety and protect the rights of all. Blow the whistle on injustice and on greed. 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 Thank you all.
All
right, now you can make your announcement.
Thank you. I just wanted to say one more thing. One of the handouts out here, actually, I developed this some time ago, but it's a list of organizations that do research on various topics, like government corruption, economics, inflation, etc. Make sure you pick that one up. It's on the table out here as you go out as well. They're mostly bipartisan organizations, and I looked up and researched that as well. Are they truly bipartisan organizations? So my thing is, how can we all start to communicate with one another again? And that's why in fact, that's one of the reasons I really like the Frameworks Institute. They do a lot of study on that, on communication. Thank you.
So, thanks everybody for coming. We'll hang around for a while. They don't close till 9. Chat with each other. Buy a book from Swell.
I went to the second book. This was 2016.
Okay, this was 2016, but in 2024, he wrote on freedom. And the end of it is freedom from or freedom to. What do we have freedom from? What do we have freedom to? And where are we headed with that?
Anybody interested in canvassing? At all? Anyone interested in canvassing? This is an organization. Bold New Democracy, our group, is actually part of a national group called Swing Left. And they have put together a canvassing program themselves. It's a little bit different. If you've used, some of you raised your hand when you've done canvassing locally. They use an app called Minivan. Well, Ground Truth uses a different app they developed themselves, and it's called People, the People app. What they do is they knock on every door, and their approach is listening. All I want to do is listen to you. They do say that they want to help Democrats, but what they want to help Democrats do is listen. And you'd be surprised at the conversations you can get into. I've been out canvassing on this. I spoke with one woman for at least 20 minutes, and she would have gone on more had I not thought, well, I've got enough to know what some good points I can make about what she's told me. And all of this information goes back to the local campaigns. What they're trying to do, they're focusing on congressional districts. 39 different congressional districts around the country. One of them, by the way, is Greg Landsman. So there's different Ground Truth events. Our newsletter covers when they are, where they are. In fact, there's one this coming Sunday in Norwood. This is what this handout is all about here, if you'd be interested in getting involved. They train you right at the beginning of the canvass. I believe it's 3 p.m. In Norwood. They train you at the beginning on how to do this. You go out in pairs. You don't go out alone. And you just go to each door in a certain area. The app tells you who is going to be there or should be there, that type of thing. And
as opposed to the traditional canvassing where you only go to certain houses.
Right, as opposed to the traditional canvassing. And I've not had any problems at all speaking to people when I go out with this approach.
It's a little like a survey in some ways.
It's more like, more like a survey.
And Ohio Citizen Action, I think, has used it very successfully, not for candidates, but around this issue coming out of the Ohio legislature around banning solar farms, even while we're promoting coal plants. And so they deliberately went to the reddest of the red counties very rural counties where farmers, some farmers have been benefiting from the rent from solar farms. And they go, it's not a one-time deal, but it's been really intriguing to me that they have used this approach.
There are different groups, yes, using the ground truth approach. Swing Less just happens to be focused on the electoral politics. But the approach, again, is listening, so people are willing to talk if you approach them that way. It's very good.
So I read that Mondama used this in New York City, this kind of approach.
My son will.
Seemed to work pretty well.
John, have you had a similar experience?
Yeah, Dan and I got trained,
Yeah.
and I was a little shocked. It's like, how do you get people to talk to you? And they come up with the lines, you identify yourself. You say, I'm working, with the Democratic Party, but I'm here to listen, and I just want to know what your issues are.
Yeah.
And then you have to write down what their issues are, and you ask them how likely they are to vote on a 0 to 10, how likely are they vote Democratic on a 0 to 10. And people want to talk, and I was shocked. I mean, it worked pretty well.
Thank you, bravo.